What's up, guys? DJ Myst here. I gotta start by saying that this phone stand issue is getting way the heck out of hand, man. I'm not even gonna show you guys what I'm working with, but this is a temporary new setup. I'm hoping that, um, I'll be honest, I'm kind of going in slightly blind here. I'm not sure how good this angle is. I hope that my phone doesn't try to autofocus between me, the mic, and the background, even though there's nothing cool in the background. But yeah, other than that, slowly, baby steps towards something better. All right, because I'm really tired of not that I mind the couch. It's just I want a more visually appealing setup for you guys. But enough of that. We're gonna get on with today's review, which is Thanksgiving, and it just came out. This is actually probably a first for the channel, where I am reviewing something literally the day it came out. So, um, also, I do like this up a little bit better. My notes are actually down here, and I can take subtle glances, and hopefully that'll be a little bit better for the whole aesthetic. Anyhow, all right. So, Thanksgiving 2023 is directed by Eli Roth. It just came out. Um, and let's just go in with all the good stuff that we, what's it called? All the good stuff that we talk about on the channel. So, for starters, the good. All right. This movie, let me just start by saying that I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. It was for a movie that didn't get much marketing. At least I didn't see much marketing. Um, I it caught my attention, and I'm not gonna lie, I actually forgot about it for a bit, but then a coworker reminded me of it, and I just thought it was a good movie that I should probably watch this weekend since we are getting close to the holidays. So, but uh, with the good, it actually this movie, it's a horror movie that actually does feel like it's trying to be different from usual horror movies. So, actually, I digress. Sorry. Let me just go ahead and start saying, if I haven't mentioned it already, it's directed by Eli Roth. All right, if that name sounds familiar, he's the gentleman that directed both Hostel movies, Hostel 1 and 2. I'm pretty sure there's more that weren't that didn't have him involved, but that I'm not too big on keeping up with horror directors, but Eli Roth, I know I recognized the name when I saw it in the theater. So, little IMDb search, and I was like, oh, okay, that's who that is. So, anyways, no, this movie does feel like it's trying to do something a little bit different. But at the same time, it's trying to remain classic. It is pretty classic. It has a very classic slasher feel to it, which really works for the movie. All right, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff. It does filter out a lot of the usual tropes that you'd see in a horror movie, especially one from like the 80s and like early 90s. But that being said, it even though it strays away from that, it still has a good amount of your horror tropes, but it is well, let me see. How do I put this? Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought again. This is stepping back. There's a lot of pressure when I film these because I'm filming these in one go. All right. Now that I've changed it to a more podcast style like review setup. So looking at my notes, doing this all in one take. Yeah, it's a lot because I'm not editing, like, for example, this little monologue right now. I'm not editing that out anymore until further notice, until I get more time, or until I make more money somewhere that I'm able to take more days off and invest more time into this. But anyways, so I'm just gonna go into the next point because I got way too distracted on what point I was trying to make the first time. So tone shifts are done really well in this movie. So it starts off actually very comically fun, and like it. Okay, that's what I was going to get into. So it removes a lot of the cheesy elements, actually. So that's what I meant by classic. See, and I'm glad I ranted a bit to kind of get to this point. So it removes a lot of the cheesy elements from, your usual like old school horror movies. However, it still feels like a classic horror movie. It still feels like a very classic, Jason movie or what's it called, Halloween movie. So that's something that's pretty cool. I'm not sure if it intended to do that, but it does that, and it's very enjoyable. All right, so tone shifts are done very well. So there's a part in this. So the movie starts off actually pretty cheesy, pretty standard run of the mill, classic horror movie style, and it's. I'm not gonna lie, I was having fun with it, even though I I was looking at the screen. I was like, "Wow, this is stupid," but I was still having fun with it. I was still with it. It starts off very, uh, just man. You kind of have to see it to know what I mean by it. It's like it's overly cheesy. It's like very stereotypical horror. So, but throughout the movie, it gets more serious as it goes on, and it does that very well. Like there is um, a lot more humor at the beginning, and it just dies off as the movie goes on. And I thought for a movie that's being really cheesy and really reminiscent of those classic horror movies, and then it goes into a very like pretty serious in tone movie. I was like, okay, that like it did it really well. So very good job on that. Um, on the note of classy or classic movies, the with so the killer is called the Carver according to IMDb. So at least from what I looked up. If I'm wrong on that, ouch. But anyways, so the Carver, all right, he's the killer of the this film. Now his motivations are pretty predictable as you watch the movie, but it it's still done. It's still very valid. Like the film does a very good job of validating the killer's motives, and also this guy just seamlessly stepped into this slasher role. I can easily see this movie becoming a classic later on. So the and or actually the killer himself, the Carver being a new classic, you know, slasher, which is pretty hard to do these days. So that the fact that this guy just slipped right into the role, like again, not in the movie, I'm just saying in the genre, I think he just stepped in and owned it very well, which is what a lot of horror movies probably try to do that don't succeed. So good job. Um, let's see here. So, another real good positive that I liked about this movie is that the killer is not stupid, at least for the most part. So there are a few parts where plot armor is it is apparent, for some of the characters, but for the most part, this killer is not stupid, and that's something that's freaking awesome. That is really cool. The he's competent. Again, there's a few scenes where yeah, um, some of the people that are going to be killed off or don't need to be killed off right there and then, like there's some parts where they do get the upper hand on him. Just because the plot requires it, but for the most part, this guy is competent, so he is actually legitimately scary. I love that about this movie. S There are some pretty creative kills in this movie as well, which I gotta give it credit for because um, it it doesn't, with the exception of one death, in my opinion, it doesn't really go too far beyond the realm of possibility. So most of it is pretty realistic. Again, even the way the killer functions, very well done, very grounded in reality. And so I thought that was pretty cool that they got creative while still feeling grounded in our real world. With that being said, there is one death that most of the deaths are entertaining. There is one death that's actually sad in this movie, and it it's just portrayed so well. It's not. It wasn't sad enough to make me cry. I don't think it'll be sad enough to make anyone cry. But you really do feel like the hardship that the characters go through when in that moment. I mean, it is the reaction of a certain character when that happens is just, I can easily see myself going through that reaction, and I'm just like, and it's something that you don't see very often in just in movies in general, like how this character reacts to a certain death. And very well done, very well done. So in all honesty, that reaction was so much more than any like a cheesy slasher horror movie ever deserves. It's like it was very well done. It's very sad. It's like it's just again, it's one of those things where like it happens more towards the end of the film where yeah, it does start to get more serious. But I mean, bravo on that. That death was that stuck with me, and I really feel that. I mean, you just feel lament for that character. You're like, man. So very well done on that. Um, all right, so another point that I wrote down here: the jump scares in this movie are actually fun. They're like the first jump scare at the beginning, or closer to the beginning of the movie. I'm not gonna lie, that one was pretty weak. But as the film goes on, oh man, the jump scares are really good. Unlike last week's review, Five Nights at Freddy's, where they're just weak. No, this one I actually had fun with this one, and they're not jump scare. They don't feel cheap. There was the best jump scare that I feel was in this movie is where a couple characters are walking through a hallway, and if you've seen the movie or if you're planning to see the movie, I'm sorry because I guess it's not really a spoiler, but now you kind of know what you're looking for before you get scared. But if you have seen the movie, oh man, that's actually probably the best jump scare in the whole movie. That was done really well. I actually have really fun with that one. Um, this movie was made on a budget of 15 million, and it is professionally shot. Oh my gosh, it does not it looks way better than a $15 million movie. Oh my gosh, it is that. And that's one thing that's kind of that I like from the get-go that I also uh I didn't I won't say it was bad or off. It was just kind of no, I will say it was off, but not in a bad way. So as soon as the movie starts, you really realize that it doesn't feel like um it doesn't feel like too cheesy of you know, of these films that I've been saying that it's a callback to, uh, because of the way it's shot. Something about it just screams professionalism, and it's crazy because the last few movies that the one thing that I don't do often, at least not consciously, because I try not to be so uh, I guess production nerd when I do these things, when I watch movies in general, is I don't I'm not actively searching for like, oh, how did they shoot this? How did they shoot that? Like, look at these, you know, camera angles, how this camera is moving, how this camera is zooming in, zooming out. I try to actually enjoy a movie for it being a movie, like just for the sole purpose of entertainment. However, the like with Beast, you know, and a while back with Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom. This one as well. Like, I mean, the it is so good. The cinematography is so good in this that I'm like, I just can't help but admire like the camera placement, the camera movement. I'm like, this is again way more effort was put into this, in my opinion, than it deserves. No offense, like, and I'll get into what I mean by that in a bit. Um, yeah, so very good job for it. Only being a $15 million movie, it's shot phenomenally professional or professionally, and it's very eye pleasing. So yeah, like I love giving credit to that because that's something that, again, if I was just out there just trying to be a critic, like just, you know, being a full on film nerd, like I feel like that would take away from the enjoyment of the movie. But when it catches my attention, it brings me out of the movie in a good way. I'm like admiring the way this movie just looks and is being presented to me. I think that's amazing. So it gets a lot of points for that. Um, let's go over some of the actors that are in this. And this is and so usually I don't do much research now, unfortunately, when I'm doing these reviews, just because again, it's more me just talking to the camera and it's one take only. I have to do very few editing just because my days unfortunately are packed, man. We as Americans in this day and age of 2023 are working too much for the money that we're making, and unfortunately, just we're just we're just not making enough to actually have time for ourselves. So that's why I changed it to this setup. So that's why I don't do much research anymore, unfortunately. So I actually decided to do a little bit on this. So again, I know how much the budget was, I know who directed it, and I just want to go over the actors because I want to give a few shout outs. First one on the list is Rick Hoffman is in this, and I want to apologize before I say this next one. Rick Hoffman, I don't think you'll ever see this, but I do want to apologize because Rick Hoffman is one of those guys that I haven't seen in movies much. When I did the IMDb search, he's actually been pretty proficient in like more TV acting. But I'm not gonna lie, I thought the gentleman was dead, and that's just because I hadn't seen him in a while. And when social media, you get news of a lot of actors that passed that you barely saw in anything, and I am so sorry. I thought he was one of those actors. No, he's alive and well, so I'm glad to see you in this movie. I'm glad. I hope you get many more years to your life, man. I'm so sorry that I thought you had passed away. So, and he's very enjoyable in this, by the way. He's very good in this. Even though I haven't seen him in much, every time I see him in something, he's always just a very fun actor to have around. So I'm glad to say that this is another one of those cases. Addison Rae looked very familiar, but when I searched her up on IMDb, I have no clue where I've seen this girl from. But she's decent in the movie. She's not great. Sorry. But she is decent, and it's again, it's just I just couldn't while I was watching the movie, I just couldn't get my head around like I've seen this girl somewhere. I've seen this girl somewhere. No clue. After looking her up, no idea. But she's decent. I think she should stick with it because it's when I say decent, like again, she wasn't great, but I feel like she does have a good amount of potential. She could definitely improve a lot more, but she does seem like she's got that star power going for her. So keep it up. Um, the our main character is Nell Villark. I think Verloc. Verloc. I think. I'm sorry. I can barely understand my own handwriting right now. So Nell Verlark. Verloc. Jeez, I'm gonna stop saying that. So Nell, she plays a girl named Jessica. She's the main character, and one thing that's really good, she carries this movie very very well. All right, and this is kind of touch up on a little bit of my bad, but this movie it does not have a very strong premise for the most part, and what she works with is done really well, and she gets the most screen time. So again, very 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 well. She carries this movie and makes it seem a lot better than I think it would have been with anybody else. So very good job, Nell. Definitely keep it up because same. I can see you doing a lot more, and I hope you do. And um, another positive. This again, I didn't keep up with the marketing. There wasn't much marketing for this movie at 15 million. I can see why there wasn't much marketing, but I'm glad that again I gave it my attention because I did enjoy this movie. Um, Patrick Dempsey is in this movie. Sexiest man alive is in this movie, and he brings a lot to it. Like he is good with the man. I have I have no clue where Plymouth is because I'm a ignorant American. Yeah, I think it's in Massachusetts. I could be terribly mistaken there. Anyhow, the northeastern accent, he does it very well. So he and Patrick Dempsey is always very charismatic. I was actually not a fan of this guy until I saw him in Transformers, Dark of the Moon. Actually, my apologies. I think I saw him in Freedom Riders, and that's where I became a fan of him. I'm not sure which one of those I saw first, to be honest. But yeah, no, but he's great. So and he just got, again, sexiest man alive this year. So Patrick Dempsey brings a lot to this movie. He's and yeah, that's I was pleasantly surprised because again, the I don't think I saw him in any of the marketing material for this, but he makes this movie just that much more enjoyable to watch. The last actor that I want to go over is a gentleman named Delphine, Joe Delphine, and he plays a character named McCarty. And McCarty, I really actually really liked this character. This is it's funny because this is one of those characters that actually get when he gets introduced, he comes off all types of red flags, all types of wrong, and as the movie goes on, and like this character actually has a heart, and I really, really, really like that. I don't think that was their goal. It's a horror movie, horror movies are um, statistically very low budget, and they shouldn't have a character that should be as endearing as this guy. This guy now, he's a troublemaker. I mean, he does dumb stuff and he does wrong stuff. Like he sells alcohol to minors, but again, like the he's very rough around the edges, but he's got as the movie goes on, you actually start to and he's not a major character, but he's there enough to where you're like, okay, I'm fond of this guy. He's not the POS that he was introduced as. So, and that being said, for Joe Delphine, that's another actor who this is actually the first thing I've seen him in, but he did such a good job with this McCarty character that I'm like, you know what? Out of all the characters I've seen, he's the one that I want the most to, or sorry, not all the characters, of all the actors I've seen with the characters that they were given. He's the one that I want the most to like actually get some more traction. Get a little bit more famous. I want to see him in more stuff because he just really played that part very well. Cool. So that's what I have to say that's good about the movie. Let's go ahead and go into the bad because I was already kind of trailing that and into that territory. So the script is weak. It is very weak. Everything from like the motivation to how the story plays out is very weak. The but and I guess this could be a positive, but the actors carry this movie so well that it is this movie turns out to be a lot better than it has any business being just because it has a very good cast. So the so I actually enjoyed it a lot more because of that. But no, man, it's a very very shallow movie. There's not much to it. Like you could tell that they were really just trying to give us a horror movie and a very generic one at that. But where it does shine, it shines very well. So kudos again to all, and that's one of the reasons why I actually wanted to go over some of the actors in this movie because I'm like, okay, you know what, these guys did an amazing job. If it hadn't had such a strong cast, man, this movie would have sucked quite a bit. So yeah, again, very weak script, very weak premise. Uh, I did mention that it is trying to be a little bit different, but it still has that classic feel. Where it does have that classic feel, unfortunately, a few of the tropes that come with horror movies overstay their welcome just a tad bit. So, for example, your fodder characters making stupid decisions. There's a good amount of that here. It doesn't get too bad, but it just starts to overstay its welcome. So certain things are just what the plot armor I mentioned earlier. Again, this killer is actually very competent. However, when these excuse me, when these people get the upper hand on him, it does feel a little bit again just horror movie tropish, or sometimes even movies in general, where it's it slightly takes you out of the movie, and it's kind of annoying just because I'm like, okay, like this is dumb, like this wouldn't happen like this in real life. But yeah, so some of the tropes do overstay their welcome. So yeah, that's gonna definitely taking off a few points for that. Um, the movie does pretty well overall for the story that it's trying to tell. However, it does lose focus towards like the last third of the movie, and it just it never got boring, but it I did feel it in spots start to lose momentum, and that's it's kind of a shame because I believe this movie is an hour 46 minutes long. I believe if they had just trimmed out not even that much, about 8 minutes maybe, it would have felt a lot more well paced. So that being said, I was actually never bored at all. It just again I could feel spots where the movie itself was beginning to falter and just it felt almost like it was losing its steam. But when it got right back on track, it did that very well. So there's not many moments like that, but it did. I feel like could have been shortened just a tad, just a tad. So going back to one positive that I gave it earlier. Again, it was very enjoyable at the beginning, where it's it's cheesy, fun, very stereotypical horror movie ish. But the writing was pretty bad. There are some lines that you could tell, like for example, I gave Nell very high praise for carrying this movie. There are a few lines that she says that are just even even though she's a very competent actress, like I feel like there's a few lines that are poorly written that I'm like, yeah, no one can make this sound natural or or cinematic. So there's a few times where the acting from some of the characters, including our main girl, there's some times where it does it feels like bad acting, but I just think it's just again a weak script and just very shallow material to work with. They didn't have much. Going back to the writing at the beginning of this movie, not that this is a bad thing. I mean, obviously it's rated R, but I feel like it has too many f bombs in there just for and I don't know why. I don't know if it's trying to be funny with them, but it just again takes me out of the realism of the movie. Yeah, I know people curse a lot. I mean, I f bomb the heck out of all my sentences at work. So I know that that's the way people talk. It just does it in a way that again feels a little too silly for real life and this movie in general. So that might sound like a nitpick on like f bombs and or cursing in general. But it was just a little overdone, if that makes any sense. Like, I mean, again, I curse a lot, but it was like I don't even feel like I do it as the way it was presented in the movie. But again, some of the writing is weak. Again, some of the deliveries are very it's very awkward at times, but just because again I don't think it's the actor's fault on this one. It's just terrible terrible few lines that were written for them. So there you go. Okay, and then the last one, this kind of already I already kind of went over this. It has too many gaps of that loss of momentum that I mentioned earlier. So yeah, again, it really never does get boring. At least not for me, it did. But I can easily see someone actually losing interest in the movie because it does. Again, with the motivation, you do start, and especially what's revealed at the end, you kind of ask a few questions on stuff that happened earlier, and it's just it almost feels like the killer himself is also like wasting a little too much time. Not much, but wasting a little too much time when his motives are pretty clear. Once you can kind of again, it's predictable. You can kind of guess it, but once it gets revealed, you're just like, yeah. So why were you just chilling in certain parts? So again, yeah, it gets points off for that. So overall, all right, I actually did enjoy this movie quite a lot, and I don't. Before I get into my rating, I just want to state that like I don't do double ratings, and I'm not going to do double ratings because I just think it gets too convoluted. I mean, I already have a numbering system from 1 to 10, and each one comes with a catchy little phrase, and I think that's probably convoluted enough. So, um, I can easily see some people, kind of like myself, enjoying this way more than others. All right. But if I was to give it a just a very honest rating, again, like I didn't have much bad to say about this movie. Mainly it just go falls on weak script, weak dialogue, or weak writing. That's really it. But a story can make or break a film, all right? And it's that's really the heart of any movie. So with earlier this year with with the writer's strike, I personally actually took great offense to that. Like, these guys are literally the foundation for any movie, and the industry didn't want to pay them anymore, and they're worth a lot more than that. So I'm glad. Without going too much on a tangent, I'm glad that they came to a resolution. And from what I read, the little key points that I read, it is a very good they did come up with a very good solution for them. So like they are getting paid better now, and the opportunities for them are also listed very well. So again, sorry for that tangent, but but I'm glad that our writers are getting paid more. And with the rating that I'm about to give it, you might see what I mean by like it's really really important. It can make or break a movie. So Thanksgiving 2023, because I don't know, I'm just saying that because whatever. Anyways, Thanksgiving gets a 6 out of 10. Worth the watch. Definitely worth the watch. Definitely check it out if you're an avid moviegoer. I so again, with all the positive I had to say to it, I feel like I enjoyed it a little bit more than a 6. But if I had to be fair and very straightforward for general audiences, you that are watching this and probably either haven't seen it yet or don't plan on seeing it, or maybe you weren't going to see it and then you watched my review and you're like, okay, maybe I should. So that's the rating that I got to give it, because that's the way I try to do all my ratings. It's not like like, hey, especially it's a little bit harder with and luckily I only reviewed one of those on the channel, but like it's a little bit harder with like Jurassic World. Jurassic Park is literally my favorite movie of all time, and I'm gonna be biased on that to no end. So with stuff like this, that even if I thoroughly enjoy it, I really do try to look at it from a neutral perspective. So the best rating that I can give it for you guys out there and for everybody is definitely a 6 out of 10. All right, so definitely worth the watch. And I know that, again, I know some people are going to enjoy this a lot more than I did, especially horror fans. And I know that a lot of people are going to probably hate this a lot more than I did. I had fun with it. I really did. And I really, again, I enjoyed seeing certain faces in there, like, again, Patrick Dempsey and Rick Hoffman. Yeah, I mean, so definitely give it a watch if you've got nothing else to do, or if you like horror movies. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys are gonna have an amazing Thanksgiving as well, just while we're on that topic. And yeah, appreciate you guys watching the review. Hopefully I fix up the setup a little bit better, but I hope, because I haven't seen this yet, obviously, I hope that it comes out a lot better looking than my last few reviews. So once again, thank you very much. Those are my thoughts on Thanksgiving. You guys are awesome, and I'm always going to say that, no matter how repetitive I sound. So, like always, this has been DJ Myst. Peace.